Hey, it's your boy J. Barry Darius, and here I am once again to talk about all things wonderful, right? How I usually do. And we're going to continue the conversation on communication, right? We started off talking about the, basic definition of communication, right? Where we spoke about, the message being given and the message being received, right? And all the various dynamics that comes with that. Right, and then we kind of went into, in depth in terms of communication language, right? In terms of, you'll be able to communicate effectively if you kind of understand, people's backgrounds, their idiosyncrasies, like how they communicate, right? Just kind of understand the person, right? And understanding their language, right? And then we kind of went into roles in communication, right? And so, we could continue the conversation on communication and the various other aspects, right, into how we can communicate effectively. But I kind of wanted to go down a different path, right? I kind of wanted to go into just practical, pragmatic steps into how we can actually improve our communication, right? And so let's go ahead and get into it. So step number one, right? I think that in order to, become better and just to become more effective at communication, we have to be more mindful, right? We have to be more mindful. We have to be, in tune with ourselves and be more self-aware. We have to be more mindful. What does that mean? It means to be full of mind. It means to be present, right? At the present moment, to be aware of, not just yourself, but the people around you, the person that you're talking to, and what you're around, right? You have to be mindful, right, of what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, the tone of what you're going to say, so that we can actually, relay the message the way that we want it to be received, right? In a positive manner, right? The second thing is we have to be willing, right? We have to be committed and we have to engage, right? In terms of conversation, it's not just one person, right? Both parties have to be committed to the conversation. Both parties have to, be willing to converse, to try to, communicate whatever it is that we're trying to communicate, right? And you have to engage, right? You can't just have, one word responses, and expect to get a positive feedback, right? We have to be committed to the conversation. We have to be willing to talk, and we have to engage, right? And then the next step is that, or the next, thing that we have to be able to do in order to increase our communication level is that we have to listen to understand. Listen to understand. Listen to understand, and not just listening to respond, right? There's a lot of us in which we only listen to give a rebuttal, or we only listen to give a response that we think is going to be a good response, right? Oh yeah, they just said that. All right, I got him, right? We don't want that, right? We want to communicate effectively, and we want to be able to do that by understanding the person that we're speaking to, right? Because you would want people to understand you when you're talking. So we want to listen to understand. Don't listen just to respond or to just give a rebuttal, right? The next one is that we have to check yourself before you wreck yourself, okay? Check yourself before you wreck yourself. All right, we gotta check our emotions. All right, this kind of goes back into being mindful. We have to think 2-3 times about what we're going to say and how we're going to say it, because again, we want to be able to communicate to understand, for us to understand, and for the other person to understand, right? We don't want to just start saying stuff that's just, man, I just want to get this out my chest, right? And although you want to get certain things off of your chest, right, but you want to be able to do it in a way where it's going to be positively received, right? We're not here to burn bridges. We just want to be able to speak our minds, but speak our minds in a way that it gets received well, right? Or you can at least relay the message the best that you can, right? In order to be able to communicate effectively, right? So check yourself before you wreck yourself, all right? Let's check our emotions, let's check our attitude, let's check our tone, right? Before we start to approach conversations. And then the last one, but not least, right? We have to pay attention. Pay attention, right? When somebody is talking to you, you don't want to be on your phone, or you don't want to just be looking away, or you're being disrespectful in terms of shrugging them off or whatever, because when you're talking, you want to have their full attention, right? So we have to pay attention to each other's emotions, pay attention to each other's reactions, pay attention to each other's needs, right? Because especially when it comes to relationships, right? Any type of relationship, we want to make sure that we pay attention to each other's needs, right? And to really care for someone, to really care for people, is being able to try to understand in advance what the person will need before they even ask you what it is that they need, right? That's caring, is trying to be able to take the further step of understanding what it is that they're going to need before they even ask it, right? That's really what caring is. And so we want to be able to pay attention to each other's needs, right? Pay attention to each other's emotions, pay attention to each other's reactions, right? Facial expressions. So that's about it, in terms of, steps or, pragmatic tools that you can use, that we can work on, right? So that we can increase our communication skill and level up, right? In terms of our communication skills, right? And that's like the general, right? Things that we can use so that we can increase our communication, right? That's more of the general. And the reason why I want to put emphasis on increasing our communication levels, generally, is because, in terms of communication, right, it's related to all types of relationships, right? All aspects of all types of relationships, right? Whether it is business partnerships, whether it is co-workers, whether it is friendships, whether it is acquaintances, right? Family, your bosses, your supervisors, right? So in general, these are the steps that you want to be able to take in, to be able to increase your communication level, right? And practice them, right? But I wanted to also give a couple additional steps, right, in order to increase our communication skill when it comes to our intimate relationships, right? Our marriages, right? With our significant others, right? And I just wanted to kind of, just give some steps in that department, because I know, that we are struggling in that area, right? And so, number one, I would say that to increase our communication skills and level, right, in terms of our intimate relationships, our marriages, is we should pray for one another and pray with one another. Okay, we should pray for one another and pray with one another, right? Because how much more can our communication levels increase if we pray with one another? Right? How much more, can we can understand one another, right? If we pray for each other's struggles and pains, and we pray for one another's success, right? And we actually, can hear the other person's prayer in terms of what it is that they're going through and what it is that they're seeking for, right? What it is that they're seeking God for. So, praying with one another and praying for one another, I think, is a powerful tool that we can use to increase our communication with one another, right? The second step, right, for our marital and intimate relationship communication leveling up, right, is to do a project together, right? To do a project together. Listen, me and my wife, we have a couple of projects that we're doing together, and we've realized that there are, a lot of things to which we do differently, right? I mean, we may have the same vision, we may have the same goal, but how we, complete those things are like completely different. And we've had to refine our communication skills. We've had to grow a lot of patience with one another, right? But in doing so, it kind of, helped us to really communicate better, because now, I'm learning that, my wife, does certain things a certain way, and she's learning of how I do certain things a certain way. And we now, have to kind of compromise, communicate, talk, right? Try to understand one another, and, just for the greater goal, the greater vision that we're trying to accomplish, just be able to come together and, be able to be effective, right? And so, I think just doing a project with one another will, substantially help us to understand one another, right? To understand, okay, how, you go about doing things, and in understanding how your spouse go about doing certain things, you'll be able to know, okay, what to say, how to say it when it comes to getting certain things done. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? You see how it all connects, right? And so the third thing, right, that I would say that we should do is that couples should have, frequent and honest conversations. We should have more frequent and open and honest conversations. I mean, think about it this way. The more that I can understand you, the more that I know you, the more that I can understand your language, right? And be able to speak it, right? And so if we have more frequent and open, honest conversations, then we'll be able to understand one another, and thereby be able to, speak each other's languages, right? I mean, there's a lot of couples who they just don't have honest conversations, don't have open, and frequent conversations, right? Whether it's because, you're afraid to hurt each other's feelings or whatever the case may be, but that's more of the reason as to why you want to have these frequent conversations, because now that'll help you to refine your communication skill, right? So that you can still relay how you feel, still relay, what you're thinking without putting each other down, and thereby be able to have effective conversations and be able to communicate effectively, right? So that's kind of, a couple of nuggets I just wanted to throw out there, right? Just for our couples and especially for our married couples, because I truly believe that if we have just, more effective and better communication with our spouses, then we will have a happier, household, right? So with all that being said, I hope that you took to heart, all of the pragmatic steps, right, in order to level up in our communication skills, because we all need to, become a little bit better in our communication skill, right, in all of our relationships, right? And so I hope that we're now going to pay more attention, right? I hope that we're now going to, listen to understand, not just to respond or rebuttal. I hope that we're going to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, right? Think twice about what you're going to say. Check your emotions. I hope that we're going to be more committed, be willing, and be engaged in our conversations. Let's also be mindful, right, in terms of who we're speaking to and where we're at, and how we're just gonna do things, right? To be mindful. And then for our couples, for our married couples, for those in intimate relationships, right? Let's learn to pray for one another. Let's learn to pray with one another, right? Let's do projects with one another, so that, you know, we can kind of understand like how we work, you know, because in understanding that, then we'll be able to understand how to communicate to one another when we need certain things done, right? And then also for our, you know, married couples and intimate relationship couples, let's also, you know, have more open, frequent conversations, right? We need to have more open and honest, frequent conversations, because the more I can understand you, the more that I know you, the more I can understand your language and be able to speak it, right? And once we are able to, you know, be in tune with these things, right, we'll be able to be better at communicating. We'll be able to be better at conversing and expressing our feelings and relaying the message that we're thinking, right, and how we're feeling. So we'll be able to just do all of that, right, and have a happier life, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about being able to, you know, be happy and just being able to you know, be able to understand one another, right? If you like what you heard, go ahead and subscribe below to the YouTube channel. Go ahead and follow me on the social media platform listed below. And you know, we're pretty much done with the conversation of communication, right? Unless I have to come back to it, right, and talk about it again, right? Or if it's requested, whatever the case may be. But for now, right, we're going to now start on a, you know, new topic, or just, you know, start, you know, talking about just a whole bunch of other things, because my goal is to be able to motivate, uplift, and just give a whole lot of nuggets so that we can live a better life. All right, y'all. Love y'all, fam. Peace.